All right, so we're going to talk about two things in this video. We're going to talk about inflation and we're going to talk about the witchcraft hysteria. Now, inflation, that's one of those forever vocabulary words that you need to remember forever and ever and ever. Put it in your permanent vocabulary. You need it as an adult. You need it in my class. You need it in senior economics. You just need it forever and ever. Inflation just means a rise in prices, right? An easy way to remember that is just the mental image of a balloon. As when you inflate a balloon, it goes up, it rises. So inflation is a rise in prices. So after the age of exploration, when you hit about the 1600s, you start to see inflation in much of Western Europe because of two reasons. One, there's an influx of gold and silver. There's a lot more gold and silver coming in from the New World, right? So there's more gold and silver out there, and therefore merchants want it, so they are going to increase their prices. It's the same reason why a meal in Beverly Hills is going to cost more than a meal in Sims, right? Because there's more money in Beverly Hills, and the people that run the restaurants know that, and they want it, right? So there's more gold and silver coming in. There's also an increase in population, which is an increase in demand. The plagues have went away. You hit a time period of peace, so there's more people. There's more demands for goods. Whenever there's a high demand for something, there's a lot of people that want it. That means the price is going to go up. That just makes sense, right? That's just common sense. You understand that, right? So these two things combined lead to inflation, a rise in prices. Now, oftentimes, whenever there's a bit of an economic crisis, there's going to be a political crisis that follows because people are unhappy about that. So that's one reason why ideas like inflation are so important. The economy affects the politics, and the economy affects the emotions of people as well. So we just talked about inflation. Now we're going to focus on the witchcraft hysteria. Now, hysteria is a fancy word for a fear that doesn't make sense, an irrational fear, right? There are rational fears, like if I throw you in a pit full of hungry lions, you will be scared. That is very rational. An irrational fear is that the monster underneath your bed is going to get you in the middle of the night, right? That's irrational. That doesn't make any sense. So at one point in Europe, was a real belief in the power of witchcraft, and there was a widespread belief that witches actually existed and could do legitimate harm to you and your family. So let's say you have a string of bad luck, your crops fail, your cattle dies, and one of your children gets sick. Right? Instead of thinking of natural causes, you might think, oh, there must be a curse, right? A witch has placed a curse on you for some reason, so you need to figure out who the witch is, right? And so there were reasons why, right, this witchcraft hysteria began. So we're going to look at who was often accused of witchcraft, and then we're going to look at why it eventually stopped, because today it's not a hysteria. People don't walk around on a regular basis accusing each other of witchcraft. So the kinds of people that were accused is pretty interesting. Almost always it was common people, right? People that lacked power back then. This is way before democracy, where the nobility, the aristocracy ran everything. So if you were just a common person, you were an easier target. And then of those common people accused, usually around 75% were women who are even more vulnerable. So it's the people that live on the fringes of society. Oftentimes, the people accused of witchcraft would be elderly women who either were never married or were widowed. Therefore, they did not have a male to protect them, because in that society, you kind of needed a male to look after you, because unfortunately, women did not have a lot of rights, and they're usually common people. Very rarely did you hear, a noble woman accused of witchcraft, and if you did, nothing would happen to her because of her husband having money and power. And this legitimately got out of hand. The most famous example took place over here in what would be the eventual United States, the Salem witch trials, where a group of young girls accused the family servant of teaching them witchcraft, and then they began to accuse other people of witchcraft, and then those people accused other people of witchcraft, until it just got so out of hand. that eventually the government had to step in and basically tell them to knock it off. And that's basically what happens. One reason why the witchcraft hysteria dies out is you have stronger governments and they don't want to deal with the hassle of a witchcraft hysteria. They don't want to deal with the headache of it. They don't want to deal with the complications of it. So governments just won't stand for it anymore. And then there's a decrease in superstition as well. And you get in the late 1600s, we've had the scientific revolution. We're getting close to something called the Enlightenment. And so it's a more logic, rational society. So now, if your crops fail and your cattle dies and one of your children gets sick, you'll realize you just had a string of basically bad luck, but there are natural causes for it. You're not going to go to the widow who lives on the edge of town, right, and accuse her of being a witch, right? So there's a decrease in superstition, a more rational, logical society, so the hysteria begins to die away.